In a world where stone-skinned giants rule the Americas, it was the sky that broke them. Evolution's solution to the titanic Geoliths, the Griffin, lifting their armoured prey into the clouds only to let them fall to their demise. This is how they evolved. In the isolated ecosystems of North America, where birds still rule the skies, a unique arms race has taken shape. Here, among the sediment-rich basins and fractured ridgelines, roam the Geoliths, stone-plated megafauna whose mineral-dense hides have long protected them from the jaws of predators. But evolution is never still, and when there's a niche to be exploited, a predator will exploit it. In the late Eocene, as Earth's climate cooled and North America's vast forests splintered, a new threat emerged from the sky. Thalornis Pteramorne, a giant aerial raptor with a 10-meter wingspan and talons sharp enough to pierce stone. Thalornis did not bother with the traditional hunting methods. It conquered with gravity, its chosen style being devastating. Grasp the armoured Geoliths, lift them skywards, then drop them from heights sufficient enough to fracture even the most durable shell, its great size necessary to lift the hulking Geoliths that roamed the emerging savannas and checkerboard forests. Thalornis Pteramorne lived as lifelong pairs, solitary but together. Like eagles, each bonded duo defends vast hunting grounds and return to the same inaccessible crags to raise a single or pair of chicks each year. The Griffin exhibits a highly derived but specialised morphology within the Neognathae, with a body plan that superficially recalls basal avians such as Archaeopteryx, though it has evolved along an entirely distinct trajectory. As secondarily terrestrial flyers, their wings have undergone extensive modification, elongated and jointed forelimbs reinforced with hypertrophied musculature, terminating in reduced but persistent vestigial claws. These structures serve as dual functions, supporting powered flight while also acting as weight-bearing limbs during terrestrial locomotion. This has resulted in a distinctive wyvern-looking configuration, in which the forelimbs are integrated into a quadrupedal gait, rather than being reserved exclusively for flight. Their locomotion is characterized by a fluid four-limb stride that balances speed, agility and stability, particularly advantageous in the broken highlands and escarpments that they inhabit. The sternum is deep and keeled for powerful pectoral attachments, while the scapulochoroid complex allows dynamic articulation during both ground movement and aerial launch. This combination of morphological adaptations reflects in the evolutionary compromise between flight performance and terrestrial utility, uniquely positioning Griffin as the apex aerial predators in structurally complex environments. The emergence of sustained aerial predation by Thalornis exerted intense selective pressure on the Geolith population, prompting divergent adaptive responses. In some lineages, natural selection favoured increased body mass and more contoured, difficult to grasp dermal armour, strategies that enhanced passive defence by making the individuals too heavy or awkward for aerial transport. However, in others, selection acted in the opposite direction. Osteoderms became reduced or internalised to minimise mass, limb proportions shifted towards increased stride length and articulation, and overall body architecture trended towards enhanced locomotory efficiency. The transition from a predominantly static defence strategy to one emphasising evasion marks the origin of the new subclade within the Geolith, characterised by elevated mobility, greater sensory acuity, and more complex neural integration. These derived forms adapted semi-erect bipedal postures, likely relying on knuckle-assisted locomotion of the forelimbs for stabilisation on uneven terrain. This shift was accompanied by increased encephalization, particularly in regions associated with spatial awareness and social coordination as well as threat analysis. The resulting phenotype was not merely harder to catch or lift into the air, but it was behaviourally and morphologically optimised to anticipate predation and exploit terrain in ways that rendered passive capture increasingly inefficient. Over successive generations, these traits would have become foundational in the emergence of tool use and cooperative behaviour in Geolith-descended taxa, the beginnings of the dwarves. The proliferation of increasingly mobile proto-dwarves and other lightly armoured Geolith morphotypes into the Miocene created a novel predatory opportunity, one in which sheer mass and individual strength conferred diminishing returns. In this ecological context, a divergent lineage within the Thalornis genus emerged, Thalornis Tharavex, a smaller-bodied, highly agile predator, specialised for targeting fast-moving or behaviourally complex prey. Lacking the robust talon grip and lifting capacity of its larger congener, Pteramorne, Tharavex evolved an alternative predation strategy centred around cooperative hunting. Selective pressures favoured individuals capable of social coordination, spatial tracking and rapid synchronised movement. Vocalizations including frequency-modulated whistles and clicks, along with percussive wing beats, likely served as acoustic signals for in-flight coordination. Rather than relying on lift and drop predation, Tharavex flocks employ a high-speed ambush strategy, herding prey into open terrain and attacking in timed bursts from multiple angles. The emergence of coordinated pack hunting behaviour in Thalornis Tharavex mirrors patterns seen in the Harris hawk, one of the few modern raptors known to hunt cooperatively. Harris hawks operate in kin-based groups, employing strategic flanking manoeuvres and prey-flushing tactics remarkably similar to those inferred for Tharavex. This convergence suggests that under certain ecological conditions, such as prey that is mobile, evasive or sheltering in complex terrain, raptors with sufficient cognitive plasticity may repeatedly evolve into social predation as a successful adaptive strategy. In both cases, the neurological substrate for such behaviour likely includes enhanced development of the nidopallium quadrilateral, the avian analogue for the prefrontal cortex, as well as expansion of the visual and auditory processing regions to facilitate inter-individual coordination in flight. The case of Tharavex thus not only enriches our understanding of predatory diversification in the genus of Thalornis, but also provides a compelling example of how behaviour and neurobiology can co-evolve within ecology to produce complex emergent hunting systems among violent predators. This behaviour represents a rare example of complex social hunting in non-mammalian predators. While Pteramorne maintains aerial dominance through raw power and solitary territory, Tharavex occupies a parallel niche in which group cohesion, behavioural plasticity and tactical decision define predatory success. Today's Griffins stand as a culmination of a lineage shaped by wind, altitude and unrelenting pressure from below, a predator honed over epochs, not by myth or magic, but by selection and survival. They perch in the silence of high crags, scanning the fractured terrain below for geoliths worth their effort. When the moment comes, they launch with calculated grace, wings unfolding into vast muscular sails. A few deep explosive wing beats and the dive begins. Talons, scimitar-shaped and stone-breaking, snap forward to seize their target, gripping shell and bone with the force of hydraulic vice. Then comes the ascent, a vertical climb, slow and punishing, the prey twisting helplessly in the air. At a height judged just right, not by instinct alone, but by learned precision, the Griffin releases its captive. Gravity completes the kill. They spiral downward, not as vultures, but as victors. The carcass is retrieved and flown back to the nesting site etched into the cliffs, where bones are scattered like trophies, and anything inedible is left to the scavengers. Over the millennia, Griffins' brains expanded in tandem with their wings. Their forebrains, the seat of memory, planning and problem solving, rival those of the most intelligent birds. They cache surplus skills, map hunting routes across complex terrain, and even transmit learned strategies across generations. Mated pairs bond for life, defending ancestral nesting grounds across decades, and they decorate their eyries with feathers, bones and bright stones, not out of necessity, but out of preference. They can grieve, they can court, and they remember. From skyborne precision to cognitive complexity, the Griffin is not a legend but a legacy, born of an arms race, refined by the aerial combat and crowned by intelligence. This is the Griffin, predators of the wind, hunters that taught gravity to kill.